Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Our topic today is an overview of human resources. My name is Peggy and I'll be your moderator today. We're broadcasting this web conference through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. By participating in this session using Microsoft Teams, your name, email address, phone number, and/or title may be viewable by other session participants. If you do not consent to being a part of a recorded session, please disconnect at this time. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions to the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions during today's presentation. We'll have time at the end for any further questions. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Neelima Gudavalli, Senior Program Manager, and Darren Kramer, Principal Product Manager. Neelima, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Once again, thank you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So this session is to talk about the recent changes that happened in human resources space and deep dive into topics of what exactly the extensibility integration at a high level. We will also be doing deep dive sessions related to each of these topics, but stay tuned. So, okay, without further ado, just get into the topics today for the Dynamics 365 Human Resources Overview. Most of you probably might have heard about changes that happened in this space recently. So we used to call this product as Dynamics 365 for Talent, and which was consisting of three modules: Core HR, Attract, and Onboard. So that I'm going to talk about a little bit about the changes that happened with the recent launch of Dynamics 365 Human Resources. What happened is like the Core HR is renamed and launched as Dynamics 365 Human Resources, and all roadmap investments will align in the space going forward. And Attract and Onboard, these two are part of the product, which was earlier product called Dynamics 365 Talent, will be retired, and we are working with the customers to transition them to a comparable solution. So once again, I just wanted to summarize these changes because this is an important slide before we move on for the next slides. So that the Dynamics 365 Talent, which we used to call, which has three submodules: Core HR, Attract, and Onboard. In that product, Dynamics 365 Talent, with all these three modules, is now what we are doing is Core HR, as part of that particular product, is renamed to Dynamics 365 Human Resources, and all roadmap investments will align to this product, Core HR, and Attract and Onboard will be retired. So that means, like, technically Dynamics 365 for Human Resources right now, the new name for Talent will only have one module. Our vision and investments will focus onto that module, and Attract and Onboard we are retiring. Let's talk about a little bit about the retirement also and what we are doing. So Attract will be retired by February 1st, 2022. So as the Onboard. So we are also providing a data migration capabilities for this customers who are using an Attract and Onboard. And also Microsoft will offer a data migration path to LinkedIn Talent Hub. So let's talk about what is LinkedIn Talent Hub. So we are aligning our strategic investments in recruitment solution to our LinkedIn Talent Hub. So this is a product released by the LinkedIn, and then if you see the slide, actually it supports the customers with less than 1,000 employees. So if any customer wants us to transition from the Attract to LinkedIn Talent Hub, so we are providing the data export tools. But we would strongly recommend that before they just make a decision of transitioning to Talent Hub, you probably need to review the product and understand the product in the way that you normally do for any other recruitment products. So, and one more thing, because we've been receiving a lot of questions on whether the Talent Hub is a direct replacement of all business processes in Attract, the answer is no. Talent Hub is a product by its own, which is from the LinkedIn. So you will have to review the product and understand whether it meets your requirement before you move forward. But from Microsoft, we are aligning our strategic investments in such a way that human resources will be focused on core HR aspect of an experience, whereas the Talent Hub will be focused on the recruitment part of an experience. So, and in summary, the Attract is Talent Hub is not a direct replacement for Attract. Talent Hub is a different product, and Attract will be retiring by February 1st, 2022. And so, as a case with the onboard, we are retiring it by February 1st, 2022, and eligible customers can still continue to use onboard until the end of their most recent contract. And we are also providing a migration tool for an onboard app to help customers exporting their onboard templates. So core HR, as I said before, will be becoming Dynamics 365 Human Resources as on February 1st, 2020. So if I have to summarize the changes one more time, so Dynamics 365 for Talent with core HR module only is renamed to Dynamics 365 Human Resources as on February 1st, 2020, and Attract and Onboard will be retired by February 1st, 2022, and we are aligning our strategic investments on core HR right now. And from Microsoft and LinkedIn, our go forward solution for recruitment is LinkedIn Talent Hub. And LinkedIn Talent Hub is not a direct replacement of all the business process of Attract. It's a product by its own. And if you wanted to really review the Talent Hub, you need to review the Talent Hub as a product to understand if it meets your requirements or not. So that's the quick summary that I can provide before we start discussing about architecture and the rest of the topics for Dynamics 365 Human Resources. So as we discussed, our primary focus going forward will be on employee experience. That's nothing but core HR, which is now renamed as Dynamics 365 Human Resources. Let's understand what is our vision on that product is. Basically, we wanted to focus Dynamics 365 for human resources in three different areas. We wanted to work our product to improve organizational agility and transforming employee experiences and optimizing HR programs, and also on the enabling workforce insights. These are the four fundamental areas that we would call it as a key pillars where our investments and vision will be focused on. So let's just deep dive a little bit into what these areas are translate to for you and how you can just assess the product or understand the improvements in this product going forward. So this is our vision, and this is how we are accelerating our vision in terms of four pillars that we have discussed in the previous slide. So the modules that you are seeing in the circle, which is an organizational management or employee master record, leave and absence and performance, and all of these modules that are inside of the circle is the primary focused areas and the capabilities that we have today. But we are also relying on our surrounding strategy to accelerate our vision. What that means to you is basically if you understand that payroll may not be directly part of the product, but we are integrating Dynamics 365 for human resources with the payroll. We are already having a Ceridian integration in place, and we are also expanding our footprint, planning to expand our footprint in payroll area. In the same way, we also have an extensibility. If you see that most of you probably by this time aware that our extensibility story is a Power Platform, and we are also making a lot of investments in that area, expanding a CDS footprint so that in terms of an entities, like expanding CDS footprints, I mean in terms of an entity, so that you can use those entities to build a Power Platform solution. And so as a case with the learning and development, so learning and development, you can just have basic learning can be tracked inside our product. But if you wanted to have a more of a enhanced tools like succession planning and management, learning management tools, so our vision is that the product can integrate to third-party systems in that space. So in a nutshell, what I wanted to communicate through this slide is there are primary focused areas like organizational management, time, leave, benefits, etc. But the rest of the areas that you are seeing outside the circle is going to be a surround strategy, wherein we will be helping you in integrating with the providers, whoever is the best in that area and whoever you choose to be the best in for your ecosystem. So if you see that one focused area that I wanted to call your attention to is talent acquisition, the LinkedIn Recruiter and Talent Hub, as well as ATS partners. So these two are also part of a surround strategy where our vision is, I'm just stressing, our vision is to provide an integration, seamless integration to Talent Hub so that you can integrate our employee experience with the recruiting experience through CDS. So this is basically one picture which shows our how we are accelerating our vision actually. So if you see here, Microsoft commercial and connected offerings, the blue bars, and the thick blue bar is third party SaaS integration partners. So and then our vision is to have a seamless integration with all of the surround strategy with the core product which is lie behind this, like inside the circle, with all the modules in place. So this is how we are progressing in this space, and this is how we are going to progress in this space. And then this is going to be our vision statement going forward. So when it comes to an architecture, so we have discussed right now, so what has been changed in Dynamics 365 human resources space, what this new announcement is all about, and then also we've discussed about our vision statement and how we are accelerating our vision. Now it's time to discuss about an architecture, what exactly human resources consist of in terms of an integration and extension and Power BI capabilities and all of that. So the set of the slides that I'm going to talk about from now to the next 20-25 minutes is more focused on Dynamics 365 human resource in terms of architecture, integration and extension and reporting and security, so on and so forth. So when you say that architecture, if you see that there are two boxes right here, so core HR and then F&O. Core HR we talked about, which is Dynamics 365 human resource, is integrated to common data service for apps. So this architecture hasn't changed much, but just that we are not reflecting attract and onboard pieces into this architecture. But let's talk about this architecture also a little bit, how we have the sync enabled to common data service for apps and what changes that's coming up in this space. So core HR, if you see that, two-directional flow to common data service for apps. Actually, whenever you are creating a data in core HR, so you without any integration enable, it's a seamless integration to common data service for apps. It's a bidirectional and it is a near real-time sync. That means you are creating a data like a worker in core HR and you will see that worker record reflected back into core CDS for apps. So, and CDS for apps, as you all know, that it is going to be our one platform for integrating a first-party applications and third-party applications with its all the tools that are inbuilt, and we're going to see that what all the tools that are inbuilt in common data service for apps. So that means having a data in common data service for apps opens a plethora of opportunities for you to integrate to either first-party applications and third-party applications. So first-party applications, if you say that the most important application that we need to talk about is F&O. So this particular F&O is integrated today with the data integrator. So data integrator is the one provides an out-of-box template so that the moment you activate the out-of-box template, the data that is already residing in common data service for apps will be integrated back into F&O. So it's a one-directional flow right now. So if you see these arrows, core HR to common data service for apps is a bidirectional flow, but the integration to F&O is a unidirectional flow. That means like it just integrates back into F&O in one direction. So this is the as-on state, and we are also working on F&O to, it's like you might have heard about dual rights actually. So we are also working on enabling an F&O integrated back into CDS using a dual rights. So right now, if you see the system as on its state, between core HR and common data service for apps, you don't have to activate any integration. System would automatically takes care of you as and when you are creating a data in core HR, the data will land in common data service for apps and it's a near real-time sync. But if you activate an out-of-box template, which is given in the data integrator space, so common data service for apps, the data residing in common data service for apps, the HR data will be pushed into F&O and the direction is one way. And in future, our vision statement is we are also working on integrating F&O data back into CTS 2.0 using a concept of dual rights. And please stay tuned for those announcements. So then moving forward, that we also need to discuss about human resource environment construct. So this is a very, very popular slide. I would say that most of you probably might have seen multiple times, whoever is using Dynamics 365 human resources. So customer, when you provision human resources, they'll get one tenant and they'll get two environments by default. One they can use it as a production, another one you can use it as a sandbox. We've been receiving a ask from a customer that like, how can I provision a third environment because I need third environment for my testing or the data migration? The answer to that is now with the relaunch of Dynamics 365 Human Resources, customer can purchase additional environments, and you should work with your partner to purchase that additional environments. So, and also one more thing that recently we launched in this environment management is like, so you probably, this is like a couple of months back, you can delineate your environment as a production and sandbox. At the time of integrating your Power Apps environment in LCS, you can define which one is a production environment and which one is a sandbox environment. So that is very important for a feature management. We're going to talk about that in the coming slides. So that means like what the changes, if we need to talk about the changes in the space, you can differentiate between your sandbox environment and production environments at the time of provisioning the environments in LCS. And the second thing is customer can buy an additional environments, and they need to work with their partners to buy an additional environment. So these are the two major changes that I wanted to call out. So, and other thing is like the third one, important one is like you can only provision one production environment at this point of time. So, and also there is one consideration that we need to take into, it's like I would call it as a kind of a best practice. When you provision environments, let's say you bought 2 extra environments, now you have 4 environments, please try to provision that in one single project, and to an extent possible, avoid multiple projects. So if I have to summarize, now you can buy an additional environment with the relaunch of Dynamics 365 Human Resources, and you need to work with your partner. And please differentiate between your sandbox and production environment at the time of provision, which is strongly recommended at the time of linking your Power Apps environment into LCS. And the third point is you can only provision one production environment. And the fourth point is when you have a multiple environments, please try to provision all of those environments into one single project. So, and then we also need to talk about a little bit, we talked about our vision statement, our environment, our architecture at a very high level. And now we need to talk about an extensibility as well. So when we say extensibility, those people who are using Dynamics 365 Human Resources for the first time, so they understand that probably our extensibility solution is Power Apps. So, but we need to stress on this point that when we say extensibility, how we can extend this product. Let's say if I need to create a new form or a new business logic or a process flow, how I do that. So if you're transitioning you are already a customer using a finance project, probably you may tend to think that, oh, can I write a code to create a new form? Or if you are using a Dynamics 365 Human Resource for the first time, probably these are the questions that you probably wanted to ask for yourself. Let's try to answer all of those questions in the coming sections. So,
Neelima, this is Darren. I would, we're getting a question just to speak a little slower so people can follow a little closer.
Okay, good. So, sorry, I'll slow down. So, to repeat this slide a little bit, extensibility basically is how you extend the product. So if you are a finance customer, let's say already, and then you are transitioning into human resources, you may tend to think that, okay, so I can write my code to extend the forms, and can I do the same thing in human resources? Or what is actually the product does for me? I mean, when I buy this product, and how can I extend if it doesn't support my business process, or if there are any gaps, or if I need to modify or customize my solutions. So these are the questions that we are going to answer right now. So when we say that extensibility, if you understand Dynamics 365 for Human Resources, it's a pure SaaS product. The SaaS product which works with the one single code base for every customer that who's going to buy this product and use this product. So considering the modern approach for any of the SaaS products, so the trend is that we are using the same extensibility model in the sense like our code, we are keeping our code base as a consistent across all our customer, but you can still extend the product using the Power Platform tools. So this is how we are progressing with the extensibility approach for this particular product. So in a nutshell, what you can do is like you will be working with a one code base across all of our customers, like in the sense like we are not allowing you to modify our code base because it's a pure SaaS product, but you are not restrained by that in terms of how you wanted to extend the product, because we are providing you all Power Platform tools to extend the product. So Power Platform tools is something that you might have heard a name by already, but let's talk about this Power Platform tools a little bit here. So if you see here, common data service for apps is part of this Power Platform. So that's one of the reasons why, if you connect the dots back to my previous slide, why we are pushing the data to common data service for apps is to open our platform to provide you different solutions, which includes an extensibility and as well as the integration, because Power Platform has its abundant in its tools in terms of how it integrates to first party and third party applications as well as the extensibility. So if you see, Power Platform has a Power Apps and Power Automate and Power BI, and also there are many other connectors and product tools available, and also all of our first party apps like sales, retail, customer service, field service is right now is connected to common data service for apps. If you see, human resources is part of it. So that means like basically what our approach is going to be, or approach for now also is, so when you wanted to extend your product for any of the business process that you wanted to incorporate, you will be using the Power Platform tools to extend the product. So, and also the integration is going to be seamless with our first party applications, because all of these apps that you are seeing here, although finance and operations is still working on pushing the data to common data service for apps, most of the apps right now is pushing its data to common data service for apps. So that means like when you see the Power Platform tools, it's opening up plenty of opportunities for you to extend the product Dynamics 365 human resources using a Power Automate or Power Apps or Power BI, and also it is opening an opportunities to integrate with the first party applications and third party applications, because most of the first party applications right now integrated to common data services, and if you wanted to integrate the third party applications, you can use any of your product tools to do that. And it also comes with so many default connectors, so you can use any of these connectors to integrate. So one of the two important tools that we use for extending a Dynamics 365 human resources, which are part of a Power Platform, is Power Apps and Power Automate. So we used to call Power Automate as a flow, and the flow is now renamed to Power Automate. So Power Automate, as you know, that it can be used to trigger any of the process flows and workflows. For example, one simple example I would take it as basically when you wanted to generate any of the approval, you can obviously use a workflow within human resources for management, but you wanted to extend that workflow so that you wanted to put in multiple layers of approval or send some kind of a notifications or anything that particularly in a frame that workflow is not available within human resources. You wanted to create your own workflow, new workflow, you will be using a Power Automate. There are 3 to 4 scenarios that you would be probably using a Power Automate for extending the workflow. Is either you want to create a new workflow which you wanted to generate a couple of approvals and notifications, or if you wanted to extend any of the notifications for any changes happening in a human resources, you can still use Power Automate. Power Automate comes with plenty of connectors that are right now available in Power Platform. You can use any of those connectors. The best example I have seen people using that is basically, let's say for example, if they're storing any files in SharePoint, and if they wanted to upload some file to SharePoint, but before approval, they wanted to, before upload the file to SharePoint, they wanted to send it for approval, they can use this Power Automate and connect to SharePoint. And before somebody uploads a file to SharePoint, they can just send it for an approval saying that I'm uploading the file and please approve so and so. It could be probably any of the confidential documents for that matter, and other and there are also, you can also use a Power Automate using some kind of an events which are there in the CDS. Like for example, if you see in this example, when a record is created, when a record is updated, and when record is deleted. So that means like if you are calling for any entity, let's say you are sending a notification that when a new worker is added, send a notification to a group like HR admin group. This particular hire process is already inbuilt in human resources. But if you wanted to extend a notification to a number of people, like, beyond human resources, or maybe to a finance folks or some SCM folks. So what you can do is, like, whenever a new record is created in the common data services, use this flow to send a notification to them. So those are some of the examples that we can talk about, but there will be a separate session on the using a Power Automate flow. We can probably discuss in detail on that session. Same is the case with the Power Apps. This is a tool in the Power Platform provided for an extensibility approach. So Power Apps is basically, it can help you design your own screen. So Power Automate is for workflows and notifications. Power Apps is for designing a new screens, and you can also tag Power Automate to Power Apps. For example, if you wanted to create a new screen based off any entity, like you wanted to display worker records, and then you will be accessing an entity in the CDS, which is called worker. So if you see here in this particular screen, this is a design studio where you will be creating a Power Apps using any entity which is stored in the CDS. The reason why you can use this entity stored in a CDS, please don't forget that we have discussed this. All of your talent data, whenever you are creating a data in talent, to the extent of entities available in CDS, will also be there in CDS, because it's a near real-time sync from human resources to CDS. Sorry, the new name, Dynamics 365 Human Resources. Whenever you are creating a data in Dynamics 365 Human Resources, the data will automatically flow into the CDS. So that is the reason why whenever you are using an entity from CDS for creating any of the screens or Power Automate, so you can use those entities because the data is there in the CDS. So in a nutshell, the way you will use a Power Apps and Power Automate is, it helps you to create a new screens, and it helps you to extract the data and the stored data and generate any notifications. So you will create a new screen using Power Apps by accessing an entities in the CDS which are related to HR, because the data is already stored in HR, and you will use the Power Automate to generate any of the notification and workflows, because that's the tool that helps you to do that. So all of this is possible because of one common story called Common Data Services for Apps, because our data is there in CDS, and Power Apps and Power Automate is part of a Power Platform tools to help you to extract the data, manage the data, and send notifications. You will be doing or using these applications called Power Apps and Power Automate when you wanted to extend human resources product. So, and then here comes Power BI. So we have some set of standard analytics provided within human resources, but if you wanted to enhance that analytics workspace with the new reports that you wanted to add, you can always create those reports using Power BI. So there are customers who are using a Power BI dashboards and for additional reports that they wanted to use for human resources by extracting the data from human resources. But you can, but there's a question comes to the case that, like, how I can embed these reports within human resources. The answer to that is, you can always build additional reports using a Power BI and can embed into the human resources using Power Apps. So in the sense, like, for example, let's take one quick example of, so you wanted to create a report of terminations, basically, then customize that report in such a way that who all left in the organization in the last 30 days or last 40 days. Or you wanted to create a report that how many employees, like the count of employees right now in organization per job title, something like that, like very customized kind of a query. Then what you will be doing is you will be using a Power BI, but you can either give a dashboards to employees, but certain organizations doesn't want to give dashboards. So but you wanted to embed these reports along with the analytics that we have in human resources. Let's say if you wanted to answer that question, instead of going back and forth between Power BI and my analytics workspace, which is there in human resources, how I can still provide Power BI reports into the human resources? The answer is that you can embed Power BI reports within Power Apps, and you can provide those Power Apps to in the human resources so that people can see all these reports in one single space. That means, like, the options is not limited. The option is like using a Power BI to create a new report. Either you can go to Power BI to display these reports, or if you wanted to provide Power BI reports within human resources, what you need to do is you need to embed these reports within the Power Apps. And we have already discussed that human resource can be extended using Power Apps. So by displaying it in the Power Apps, obviously they can see the reports within the human resources instead of going back to Power BI. So that's probably a very high level view of how you can extend the product and what is the extension to existing reporting strategy we have in human resources. And then we also need to discuss a little bit about integration because if you see our previous slides, like when we talk about Dynamics 365 as an ecosystem, we have a lot of first-party apps that you wanted to integrate. The best common scenario is finance system, and we also have a third-party apps that you wanted to integrate, because one of our surrounding strategy is basically we are working on enhancing most of our modules that are there in the circle, and we are relying on our own products from the like LinkedIn Talent Hub, as well as the product from third-party systems to integrate to. So that integration story right now becomes so prominent with all this coming around, like, surround strategy or integrating to first-party applications. So let's see that what kind of integration opportunities that you have when you buy Dynamics 365 Human Resources. So once again, it comes back to Power Platform and Common Data Services, because that's the platform that opens up plenty of opportunities for you to extend the product as well as to integrate the product. Before we go any further into integration, let's understand the basic concepts, because these are the terms that I wanted to introduce in this slide, because I will be using these terms in the coming slide when I discuss integration options that you have for this product. So we have already discussed Power Apps and Power Automate. And then we also discussed you have set of entities available in CDS for apps for human resources. And the data is already available in Common Data Services for apps with the sync process. And then we have discussed that Common Data Services will also have a connectors. There's more than 250 plus connectors right now available. And then CDS has its own API. So these are all the fundamental terms or the principles we have discussed actually. So if you see here, whenever you are provisioning an instance, you will have the Common Data Service for apps as well enabled. And within the Common Data Service for apps, the solution that will be installed for human resources is HCM Common Solution. The moment I say that HCM Common Solution is installed, it comes with a set of entities which are specific to human resources. And these entities fill with the data as and when you are creating a record or any changes within the human resources UI. The reason why the data flows to entities in CDS is it's seamless. We have already discussed that it is a near real-time sync. You don't have to do anything, or you don't have to activate any integration from human resources to CDS. The data will take care of the data flow that is near real-time sync. The moment the data is there in the CDS, it opens up plenty of opportunities for you to integrate and extension using a Power Apps and Power Automate. So the solution that is catered to the entity maps in the CDS is HCM Common Solution, which is installed in CDS. And because of the solution, you will see all of these entities in the CDS. And then you'll have a connectors and you have an API to integrate to the different first-party and third-party applications. Let's discuss a little bit more into this, like because these are the fundamental concepts that we need to understand. As to an extent, if you understand that, HCM Common Solution is a solution that is installed in CDS, which provides a set of entities, and the entities has a data which flows from Dynamics 365 UI as and when the data is created, and then Power Apps and Power Automate can use these entities and data to extend the product. And there are also connectors available within the CDS for apps to integrate to first-party and third-party applications. So there are different patterns available within the human resource to integrate to first-party and third-party applications. Let's talk about these patterns at a very high level. In the coming slides, we'll discuss pros and cons of these patterns and which pattern to be used at and what scenario. So this is a very high level slide, which gives you a set of patterns available in human resources. So if you see that, let's talk about your first pattern. So one of the reason why we have data in common data services, well, probably I stress on this point a little bit more because this is a core of the product, I would say, is because it opens an opportunity for you to connect to first party and third party applications, because CDS for apps has plenty of connectors or different types of connectors and pro dev tools available. So using these connectors, which are more than 250 plus, then you can integrate to, if the connector is already available, then you can integrate to any of your third party application. If the connector is not available, you can also create a custom connector. So that's the first pattern. That means like the moment the data is there in CDS, using by default connectors that are available, which is more than 250 plus, you can connect to product, you can connect to third party app or first party app. If not, you can create your own connector using a pro dev tool. I would strongly recommend explore these connectors which are available in CDS today. And then the second pattern that you see is common data service is integrated to finance by using a second pattern. So as we discussed, there is a standard DI pattern available here to send this data from common data service to finance. So you have OOB out of box template available within the DI. So when you activate this out of box template, it will take care of sending the data from common data service to finance. So there is one more topic which is already available in our community posted on how to activate this template and what are the integral components. I would recommend you to go through the tech talk, but to an extent for this slide, intent is to tell you guys that, so this particular out-of-box template, which is readily available within the DI pattern, will help you to integrate common data service to finance and operations. When I say you are integrating common data service to finance and operations, don't forget you're actually integrating a human resource data, because most of the human resource data to extent of entities available is there in the common data service. That means like as and when you are, I will go back to the same example, as and when you are creating a worker record, just to say one example, that data gets cascaded down to common data service and resides in worker entity. The moment your template use that worker entity, all the worker data that is right now, it is there in this box, will be pushed to finance. And this box is getting the data from human resources, basically because we have near real-time sync enabled from this box to this box. So that's the second pattern. And the third pattern is we are also integrating with the Dayforce payroll, which is one more time an out-of-box integration. So there is an export package that you can generate from human resource to Dayforce payroll, so which Dayforce payroll consumes and then execute the payroll. So if you are already licensed to Dayforce payroll, and then if you wanted to activate an integration, you can do that here, so that your payroll, you can run the payroll from Dayforce. All we are doing is from Dynamics 365 Human Resources, we'll be sending a data that is required for payroll processing, and Dayforce payroll take care of those payroll processing and generate a GL, which will be integrated back to your finance system. So we are not processing here, just to summarize, in the human resources, all we are doing is through this pattern, we are sending a data necessary to run the payroll within the Dayforce so that they can process payroll for you, and the GL transaction generated out of the payroll processing will be integrated back to finance and operations. And provided all this needs to happen means like you need to have a product called human resources, like basically, and then you will be integrating with the payroll integration, and you will be licensed to Dayforce as well. And the fourth pattern, which is like most popular pattern in Dynamics community, is like DMF. So you can also use DMF. So the moment I say DMF, it will open with the Azure stack, open to a lot of integration patterns, like either you can use logic apps or DMF API. So you're not constrained by just because that basically the point here is like just because you are using a DMF, it's not a manual export or import. You can also integrate with Azure stack, say for example a logic app, and call DMF API and integrate human resource product. So there are plenty of opportunities here for integration, but this is a very high level slide focused on what all the common patterns available. Just to summarize, you have a ProDev extensibility tool, connectors which are available in a common data service to integrate to any of the third party And for the first party apps, the example we have taken here is finance. In our second pattern is a DI with the out of box template. And then we also have a payroll integration right now is coming as an out of box, which is available as an out of box integration is Dayforce. And then you are also having a DMF framework with the DMF and Azure Stock can do a lot of, can open a lot of opportunities if you wanted to integrate. So let's talk about a little bit about these patterns in terms of when to use and what kind of scenarios. So if you say that common data service entities, like we have discussed this, we also expanding the footprint. One of our vision is expand this footprint to fullest extent so that you can use the complete, you can completely leverage a CDS platform for integration. So the one question that we need to answer is, we are saying right now that there are 80 to 85 to 90% of entities available. What if I wanted to integrate to the entity that is not available in CDS right now? So there are two ways, right? One is that you are integrating using common data service for apps using any of the patterns right now available. If there is an entity, and if there is no entity, then how do I integrate? You can also integrate, as we talked about, using a DMF entities. That means, like, if you think about your integration, if you have all the entities required for integration and available in common data services, you will be using the tools that are available in common data services. If not, use a DMF framework is a summary statement. So, and then we also have a data integrator, which works off of the CDS and integrate to first party applications. And one common scenario right now for human resources is finance, integrating a human resource with the finance using a data integrator. I just probably quickly summarize what consideration you should be noting when you are using a DI pattern. Probably who understands DI better, DI integrates your data from common data service to any of our first party applications by way of out of box template. One limitation with that is, like, it will not handle deletes. That means, like, if any data deleted in human resources, that changes will not be cascaded back to the target system that it is integrated. But you have other options to do that. I'll scope this discussion for just to explain consideration for now. And then one thing that I wanted to discuss here is we have also talked about DMF entities a little bit here. Along with the DMF entities, you also have OData enabled entities. That means, like, whenever, let's say, for example, if I need to summarize these patterns in 3 different statements, our recommendation is, if the entity is available in CDS, if you wanted to integrate to first party apps, use DI as an out of box, and because it has an out of box templates available. And if the entity is not available, either you can use a DMF package REST API with the logic apps, or you can also use our OData enabled entities. And not to forget the BOID basically as well available. And using a BOID, you can always schedule and export jobs and then use this BOID for any of your reporting needs. Or basically, like, you can use a BOID to transform your data and use it with the logic app also. So these are some of the use cases that I wanted to explain when it comes to integration patterns. Our first recommendation is common data services and use the DI if you wanted to integrate to any of the first party applications. If the entity is not available, you can explore DMF entities or BOID or OData enabled entities or DMF. If I'm saying DMF entities, then obviously you would be using a REST API to schedule jobs and to pull the data from the jobs. So there are a couple of considerations that are given here. Please use that consideration also. And also, please do note that there's some patterns, these are synchronous versus asynchronous, and you probably might want to consider the async patterns and sync patterns when you wanted to use this particular any of these approaches. So the DI is an async pattern, basically, because it's a schedule based. Please note that point as well. And then One another topic that we need to discuss is like once after we have discussed an integration is the data management tools. So questions about data management, how I just transferred data from one instance to another instance, sorry. And then can I copy my database or can I just reset my database? So all of these questions now usually that I just probably customers and partners ask us. So to answer to these questions is, so these 2 or 3 slides that's going to come up will give you a very high level view of the tools that are available in human resources today. So needless to say that data import and export framework or DX framework plays a very vital role in this. And also we recently announced a couple of months back data copy framework. So what does it data copy framework does for you is like whenever you wanted to copy data from one instance to another instance within the same landscape, so you can use this copy framework. If you see the box here, so I have noted a couple of scenarios that you wanted to use the data copy for. So data copy feature right now enabled in LCS. Right now, when you go to LCS, which we'll see in the next screen, you can enable this data copy. Right now that you copy data from sandbox to sandbox, so production to sandbox and sandbox to sandbox. So what is not possible with the data copy is you cannot copy the data from sandbox to production. So that's the scenario that's not enabled. The scenarios that are enabled today is production to sandbox and sandbox to sandbox. And then needless to say that when you talk about human resources, it's not only the UI part of it, but it also the Power Apps environment, right? Because you will be using the CDS environment as well. We have discussed that the data that you create in human resources will be cascaded to CDS. That means when you are copying the data of human resources, you would be copying the human resource database, and you also need to worry about copying CDS database. So that means how we do that is what we are going to discuss in the second slide. So for this slide, if we understand the concept called data copy is available, and data copy is available from production to sandbox, sandbox to sandbox. That's the thing that I wanted to communicate. And then we also have a data management tool sets which are across the platform, like DAXF is available for data management when you really wanted to copy from one instance, when you really wanted to move data from one instance to another instance. That means you have fundamentally 2 tools, DAXF or data copy framework, and then you also need to take care of your CDS environment. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So this is a screen in LCS which help you to enable the data copy. So the moment you click on the copy, it will give you this information, and then it let you select the target instance to which you wanted to copy. The moment you select the target instance and copy, once after the copy process is over, it will notify you. So how it works is what we need to discuss. And one more time that I'm stressing on this point that human resources environment will also comes with the Power Apps environment, because the data of human resources will be there in the CDS too. That means when you're copying it, you also need to take care of copying the CDS environment. But how to do that and what is the approaches to do that is what we are going to discuss in this slide. So one fundamental thing is like when you are trying to copy a data from source environment to target environment, we are actually going to request you to lock the sync process. That means like whenever you're copying the source environment to target environment, please disable CDS sync in the target environment. So what can happen is like once the copy of source to target is done, then once after you enable the sync in target environment, then the data gets copied from your human resource environment to CDS environment automatically. That means like, for example, let's say I'm copying the data from source to target. The first step that I would be doing is deactivate the sync process in the target environments. That means whatever the data that you are creating in the target environment will not be synced into CDS. So what we need to do is like once after you deactivate, then initiate a copy from source to target, which will start copying all the source data to target. And then in the third step, once after the copy is done, then activate the CDS sync in the target environment. Then what it does is it will take the data of target environment created and push this data to CDS. So that's one way of doing it. Other way of doing it is like you copy the source environment to target environment. Then you will also copy the Power Apps environment. But remember that when you're copying the Power Apps environment, it will not copy any of your tools like Power Apps and Power Automate. You have to take care of those tools in a manual. You have to do an export import. So this is how the data copy works for human resources. And there are a couple of things that you need to consider when you are doing the data copy. Source and destination environments must be in the same region. And we have talked about this. Canvas apps and Power Automate are custom connectors, will not be copied to target environment. This needs to be done using an admin portal export and import. So if we talk about this process a little bit, I know that this is a little complex, but I would like to summarize it one more time. So when you are copying any of the human resource environment from source to target, you use the copy functionality given in LCS and copy from source to target. In doing so, please switch off your CDS sync process in the target environment as a first step, and then initiate a copy. Once after you receive a notification that copy is done, then switch on the CDS sync in target so that it will copy the data of your target environment back into the CDS. That's the recommended approach. And the other way of doing is you copy the human resource environment and you also copy the Power Apps environment as a second step. But one important consideration in doing so is like when through this copy process, you can copy the data of human resources and you can copy the data from one CDS to another CDS environment. But what it will not copy is Power Apps and Power Automate, which you need to do using a export import framework from the admin portal. So a little bit about how you move data across the landscape. Basically, this is a common slide that you probably see in all of our first-party apps that you will configure and migrate and you test and you training and operate. So most often than not, you will use the DIXF to copy data from one environment to another environment. But when exactly you use copy is basically, let's say if you wanted to refresh your if you wanted to refresh your test system with the production data, that's when you are going to use a copy functionality. Lastly, we wanted to discuss some security principles as well, and also want to talk about a little bit about the considerations and the vision or what we are working on in the security. So this is a common security principle that we also use, what's been used at a platform level, like we use roles, and roles have duties and privileges. And this is a very common security model you must have seen. What is in specific to talent, like in this is specific to human resources. So some of the best practice that I wanted to call out here. So please don't use the standard roles, because the problem is you can use it, but the problem is like whenever we are using the new features, standard roles gets updated automatically. But if you wanted to control a little bit and who is getting what, then please copy that standard role to customized role and then start using it, so that way, whenever a new feature is added to the system, you will understand if you really wanted to give that duty or privileges to the existing users or you wanted to split this functionality. So it's just to give you more control, not that you cannot use standards, you can still use standard roles, but we wanted to call this out to your attention that if you are using the standard roles, whenever a new feature is added, if that feature comes with any of the additional duties and privileges, we will be updating the standard roles with that privileges. One important consideration when you are using a human resource security is restricting security by legal entity is allowed today, but restricting a security by organization hierarchy is now part of the roadmap and work is in progress. That means that let's say if you wanted to restrict, like for example, any of the human resource administrator functionalities by department or something which is in your org hierarchy like business unit. So that is probably is something that we are working on right now. But if you wanted to restrict any of this functionality, human resource administrator functionality by legal entities, which is available today. And couple of important callouts here specific to our update policy. Basically, service updates, like there are weekly updates that we do for bug fixes and new features. An important aspect here is like probably you might have seen this feature management workspace. We have recently launched probably a couple of months ago. You can validate all of your preview features in Sandbox. This is one of the reasons why we strongly recommend when you are creating an environment, please delineate those environments between Sandbox and production so that your Sandbox will be equipped with all the preview features as soon as we release them. So one of the advantage that you can derive by delineating your environment as a sandbox is you can see all the preview features in the feature management workspace, and you can enable them, test them so that you understand that functionality. You can access this link to understand the feature management overview a little bit more. And this features will remain in preview for at least 30 days and typically 30 to 60 days, basically. So, and our major releases, needless to say, is month of October and April. So this features will show up in your sandbox as preview features if you delineate your particular environment as a sandbox. And we have talked about our service updates, which is weekly, but needless to say that when you say human resources, you have service updates at a human resource level and as well as a common data service updates as well, because we have human resources and common data service environment as well. So common data service updates also happens approximately every 6 weeks. So we release by every week, and common data service also happens every 6 weeks. And then you will have a sandbox equipped with releasing or seeing or testing all the preview features. So we strongly recommend you delineate between your production and sandbox so that you can validate all of the new features that are released in preview mode in sandbox before those features move to ZA within 30 and 60 days of time frame. And a couple of resources is given here, and go through these links. So this particular tech talk is more to provide you a quick overview of what is happening in the human resource space in its vision and what's been changed with the recent announcement. But there are also other tech talks that are there in the community, which talks about the individual topics like integration and extensibility. We recommend to go through those tech talks if you wanted to deep dive into those topics. And there are a few other coming up specific to data migration and deep dive into each patterns of integration, and please stay tuned for those announcements. And with that, I think I'm concluding the session, and thank you so much for all who joined the session. Probably we have 4 more minutes and we can open the session for questions.
Say, Neelima, we do have a few that haven't been answered yet, and a couple of them are around the Talent Hub. Do you know if Talent Hub is released in all countries, and is there a timeline if it isn't?
It's not in all, but few. I think what we can do is like we can capture those questions and then send them replies, probably in an individual note, or guide them to our resources after the tech talk.
And then just a couple I didn't get to here. Power Apps examples are Canvas apps. Is there a possibility to make data-driven apps within HR?
Driven apps. So let me answer this question. So you can create a Canvas app and you can create a Power Automate and embed them to HR. You can create a model app, but you cannot embed right now a model app into the human resources. You have to create that as a separate link to access the model-driven app from human resources. There are some of the connector licensing implications too. Let's say, for example, if you are using a CDS connector in the Canvas apps from human resources, you can still use it by embedding that. But if it is a model-driven app, it needs to work with a separate Power Platform license, because you cannot embed model-driven app within the human resources right now. Does that answer that question, Darren?
I'm not sure if it answers the question, but we can elaborate maybe on it a little bit more and then post it. I've got a couple more here. Looks like there's a few more coming in as well. There was one that's and trying to understand why LinkedIn Recruiter and Talent Hub doesn't have native integration to Dynamics 365 HR, and we are working with Talent Hub and Recruiter to simplify and to incorporate that integration, similar to the way Attract had integration to LinkedIn Recruiter. We're still still working with that team to see what the best solutions are for that integration. They're obviously a Microsoft company, and we're working closely with them, but I don't have a lot of details on that. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Neelima, or not.
No, I think you covered it well. So that's one of the vision which we are closely working with LinkedIn to establish a seamless integration, actually.
One question here, I think I can take this one. Just general availability of new functionality. We are eons behind some of the other applications, some of the best of breeds. We are working really hard to make sure that we fill out the overall footprint of Dynamics 365 for HR, and you can see that with the leave and absence capability that's been put in place with some of the acquisition work that we've done, the benefits management pieces. We're working with the internal teams here to build out additional functionality, but we realize we do have some work to do to round out the solution from an HR perspective. And then that is also the reason for getting our data exclusively move that to CDS, so you can start using other applications, and it should open up a lot more of the extensibility and integration pieces within the CDS itself. So we're working hard to make sure that we have new capability and we remove those roadblocks from the partner and ISV community to be able to extend the application. I think that there was a few questions around just problems with integrating, considering connecting the information with finance and operations. There's some worry about the integration. I think we've kind of set aside a group of individuals to look at integrations. How can we make sure that the footprint is in CDS? How can we make sure that, I think the number one question on Teams is around financial dimensions, moving those from talent or from Dynamics 365 HR over into finance and operations. We do have a CDS solution rolling out within the next couple of weeks. It has financial dimensions on positions and employment, which will then hopefully alleviate some of those capabilities. And the whole goal is to get information into CDS so that that can move to whichever application or integration it needs to move to. So yeah, I think that's the answer there for now. Keep on the lookout for additional work coming from the team to move that data across into the common data service.
Great, thanks for answering so many questions. It looks like we're out of time. Are you okay to end the session now?
Yes.
Okay, we'd like to get the audience's feedback on today's session. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We do value your feedback and welcome your input on how we did today and what you would like to see in future sessions. The survey scores on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible. Thank you for your participation. I would like to extend a thank you to our audience presenters for joining. Have a great day or evening wherever you are.